Hello, Dr. Rob. Hello.
Oh, hi, Tammy. I'm sorry.
It's
Like,
okay.
I'm still on the planet. I was just looking at a question we had and thinking about it and
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
realize I hadn't even said hi. So,
Yes,
hi,
it's all
Tammy.
good. So the first question, my husband went to SILA. It's our residential treatment program, expert treatment, 5 months ago. I want to be educated on the steps. How long does it normally take to do it? He is still on step one. I don't question him because I don't want him to think I'm controlling his recovery. I just want to know if this is a sign he isn't doing the work. So I've got resources for educating about the steps, but can you address the still on step one after
Actually, I was
coming
hoping
to
you would
residential?
start
Oh, yeah.
because we're in the
Yeah.
same world, and I know that would
Hmm.
that would strike you. And you have a gentle path. I think that's a great book to put out there as a gentle path through the 12 steps. Life
No, I don't have that
Anonymous.
one. Life Anonymous is, I often refer to this for partners because it's also, it was written by Kristen Snowden, who does podcasts, I mean, not podcasts, webinars on our platform. She's got some bonus ones in October. And Scott Brassard, who is on our team as well. And she comes at it from a non-addict standpoint. Um, but Scott comes at it obviously from an addict standpoint. And I say obviously, if you've been on any of our webinars, that that would be a given. But I apologize because some of you may be brand new tonight, and so welcome. This is an opportunity to ask questions. I am also going to post. There's a link. Scott and I actually did and I'm honestly kind of proud of it. A webinar on February 7th that was posted to our website, and it's a primer on the 12 steps, like how to navigate them, because like with alcohol addiction you go to AA, but with these items we have a whole list of resources. I'm curious about him being on step one because someone who's been through treatment and does not believe that their life is unmanageable due to their addiction, like I'm just curious about that. So um, and I talked a lot about the steps in the webinar, but steps 4 through 9 are the house cleaning. That's where we really get into getting through the wreckage of our past so that we can move forward in a different place. So when people are kind of spinning around on steps 1, 2, and 3, and I get everybody's different, the treatment program that I went to decades ago is you did the steps. That's not what we do. It isn't just doing the steps,
We
you
teach
know,
it. We
yeah,
teach it,
yes,
but we
but
don't do
like
it.
we literally did the steps. That was our
Right.
residential program was you
Right.
do the steps,
Right.
and so, but you're not getting here's my point is you're not getting the freedom of the steps if you're still stuck on step one. My life is unmanageable because of my compulsive behaviors. Like when you go to treatment, that's kind of like there's a nobody comes to treatment, that's having a where everything's going along swimmingly. This is like there's a problem. So, so to me, there's a disconnect with that. And that I would also be curious how many 12-step meetings he's going to, how often is he working with a sponsor? What is he doing to work through that? And there is a book, The Gentle Path Through the 12 Steps. That is one, but they're in all of the 12-step books too. So there's lots of different paths to get through the 12 steps, but you got to do the work. So,
Okay. Um, so there's a couple of parts to this question. Thank you, Tammy. And she's right. There are many ways to do it. You don't have to write in a journal. You can get a book. You can, back in the day, they gave you a piece of paper and this piece of information. They said, write for 3 pages or more. So I think that you're both fortunate in that we live in a time where there are a lot of opportunities, as Tammy said, to have something take you through it. But we haven't answered either of your questions, so I want to go to that. Um, Number one, I don't want to question him because I don't want him to think I'm controlling his recovery. Um, so I think you have that backward. I think it's his job to say to you, just so you can feel comfortable, this is where I'm at. Or I know now he knows, I know that you're worried about my step work and where I'm at. So, as I go along, I'll let you know here and there what I'm doing. So I'm more concerned about you feeling like you have to watch, but you don't want to watch because you feel responsible, but then you don't want to get involved, but then he may not be doing the work and back and forth. This is not your recovery. This is his recovery, and it's the recovery of your relationship. And relationships are built on one thing in other than love and care and family, which is trust. I mean, that is the backbone of a relationship. So what I try to teach you guys who go through treatment is all bets are off about the degree of privacy that you now have. You have broken the trust with your partner. And so now they can't sit around and say, oh, I know he's doing that because he told me he would. I have no idea. And you have no idea what's true or not. So I don't think Tammy talks a lot about boundaries. And it's one of my favorite things now. I've been thinking about it a lot. It is not okay to say, you do this, or I agree with you. That's not the way to work it. I think what you can say is speak for yourself and say, I feel really uncomfortable not hearing about this. And, I guess, the way for me to handle that discomfort is just to, spend more time apart or to be more time with my girlfriends or whatever makes you feel good. So you're not focused on him. He'll get the message pretty quickly, I hope. But this is a bunch of crap because, first of all, go through the steps in 3 days and then go back and do them in 3 months and then go back and do them in three. It's not like you're done. This is a never ending process of, I've been told like, it's like the bottle with soap in it, and you rinse it out and then there's still bubbles and then you rinse it out again and there's still bubbles and, not as many, but this is a process. It's not a I'm done kind of thing. So he should be doing it many times. If you went to us 5 months ago, I am concerned about two things. Number one, no brainer. He should be much further along than this. And the second thing is he should be perfectly comfortable saying, and you're concerned about this. So let me tell you as I move along, what he's writing about, who he's writing it with, how people respond to it. That's his business. But the fact that he is doing it and it leaves you feeling safe, because that's the point, regaining trust because he's doing what he says and saying what he does. I think that's right. And number two, that you don't have to worry. You should not have to sit around saying, I'm worried that he's doing this, or I'm worried that he's doing that. You have those feelings, and you may be, but it's his job to relieve. I wrote a book called Out of the Doghouse. Part of it's for men who cheat and how to regain trust in a relationship. We also teach a course in it. And one of the things that's really important to me that I tried to say to the guys is, hey, you don't have to tell your spouse what's going on. You don't have to own your stuff. You don't have to be accepting and have empathy. Just don't be with this woman. Because if you want to be with this woman who you've harmed, you have a responsibility to clean up your mess and to keep it cleaned up. And listen, they have a choice. They can find someone else. But if he's with you, you have a right to say, this is what makes me feel safe. And this is what doesn't make me feel safe. And then it's up to him. He can do it or not. But that's a message to you if he doesn't. Yeah. Tammy,
Oh yeah, yeah, and I did put some. The second one asked about putting the links in, so I did put links. So you can always find things on the seekingintegrity.com site. But if you have questions, you can email Tammy TAMI at Seeking Integrity, and I'll point you to those specific things. And I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm going to assume female partner here. There's an Empowered Women's Retreat, coming up again in October. What we talk about is healing for the women. We don't talk about him, but it's also taking the focus off of him. But what I hear is somebody who, in the 12-step books, half measures availed us nothing. Like that's a quote out of the 12-step books. Half measures availed us nothing. I don't even hear half measures. Like he went to treatment, BFD, sorry,
right.
but like thank you for, coming. But that's just the beginning of the, and you're supposed to sit around and go, well, I don't want to harm his recovery. I don't want to, no, he learned things in treatment. And if he was paying attention to what he learned and didn't just tuck his workbook away in some closet or whatever, but if he's actually doing the work, you will see with his actions that he is changing. Again, I go back to steps 4 through 9, our house cleaning steps. We get freedom in the promises of 12-step, and it talks about you will be amazed before you are halfway through. That doesn't mean if you're stuck on step 1, you're going to get all the benefits of, but like we get a whole list of promises. We're promised good things if we do the steps. But if we don't do the steps, we don't get them. You can't do step 1 or hang around on step 1. Guess what? I've been around a long time. So I'm not saying anything about him, but my experience is people that spin around in those first couple of steps and don't really do anything, they don't make it. They don't make it. So I would, like Dr. Rob said, healthy boundaries for you. Be ready, because that person sounds like they're on a slippery slope and not really engaged in what real recovery is. Also, not getting all the benefits of real recovery too. Passionate about 12 steps, as you can see. So I want to encourage you, partner, to take care of you. Healthy boundaries are for your safety, not about punishment, not about control. It's what do you need to do to take care of you, regardless of what this person is doing. I started out a call earlier this morning with, someone, and it was a similar theme of like not really doing the work and still watching porn and all that. And I said, that's a person in addiction. That person is not in recovery. Even if there is a bigger gap between acting out, they're still in they're still not doing the work. You don't get the benefits of recovery if you don't do the work. So.
And just to say, for those of you who have no idea what the heck we're talking about, when people go into healing programs like AA or NA or CA or SCA, there's criteria, there's work that they have to do, and I consider it like the rules of life. Some of us just never learned them because of our experiences early in life. I have to be reminded, about my responsibilities, about my commitments, about how I need to treat people, about mistakes I've made, and this is one of the paths to that. Yeah, I do want to say something about treatment. We run a treatment program. I created it, I wrote it, I hired some of the best people in the country to be there. Everyone's masters, everyone's CSAT. And I can't guarantee you that we're going to do anything for your husband. Because what happens is he can learn, he can take it in. I think we're really good at it, do a lot of therapy. You're probably involved, as all the spouses are involved when they're in treatment. But the rubber hits the road. And I tell this, guys, the rubber hits the road when you go home. You have the pamphlet, you have the booklet, you have the information. But if you don't study, you're going to fail the test. And so, we're the class, they take the class, the world is the test. How are they going to do? And by the way, I would ask you also, and I'm going to let this go, we got on forever. Do you see him reaching out to people? Do you see him asking for help? Do you see him going out with some of the men or women in his recovery program? Do you hear him talking about other aspects of it? When I went to therapy, I really learned this, or when I was reading that, or because I think it's not just that piece, it's a whole life. You're watching this person and thinking, oh, in other words, you would feel more trusting, I think, if you heard, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And, they told me seeking integrity, I need to do this. And gosh darn it, I'm doing it. And I think it was one of my mentors who said, and it goes to the next question, that about 85% of the people who don't make it are the ones who don't do the things we tell them to do. When I get to know your spouse in 4 weeks in treatment, trust me, me and the team, we know what they need to do when they go home. They need to read this. They need to go to those programs. The problem is they don't do it. Or they say, oh, I don't do this piece and that piece. Trust me, what I would ask them is, can I have a copy of your aftercare plan from Seeking Integrity? And we try to put in there what you're going to do Monday, what you're going to do Tuesday. There is a very articulated, worked on with him, and maybe you heard about it then, plan for what he is to do. And so the bigger question for me is he doing any of it? Is he doing all of it? This worries me because it's one of the important pieces, but there's a lot of things he needs to be doing. And I would feel safer if I was seeing some of those things. So anyway, holistic question, great question.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Again, healthy boundaries for you are for your
you.
safety, because this person is not engaging in real and just not acting out as abstinence. And it's just not doing the things we weren't supposed to do in the first place. We're not becoming better people if we're not doing the work to change. So, okay, the next question, and I love stats. So I often hear very bleak stats about recovery. However, I can't find the sources for any of the stats. If they are true, often over 90% relapse, etc., gives me very little hope, and it's difficult to allow myself to trust him despite all the work he is doing. Do you have any stats about recovery or relapses, etc.?
Well, you are, by the way, Tammy has what, a bachelor's or master's in
I have
statistics?
a minor in statistics. Yes, I have a major in math, but I love
Seriously.
stats. Yeah.
I can barely count to 3. So in any case, Tammy, since you are the statistical wizard, is there anything that you want to say about that piece, or do you want me to start?
Well, I will share, but yeah, I love stats, and I am an addict in recovery. And yes, if you're looking at the global stats across all forms of addiction, it would be bleak, as you indicate. But you know what? When I was sitting in treatment in the one that we just did the 12 steps, I remember the counselor looking around. It was a unit of women. We called them units back then. And they said, like literally, she said, the odds are that only one of you will, stay in recovery. So if I wanted to go to the place of like, well, then, throw in the towel, whatever, you know, thankfully I didn't. I went, nothing against any of these women, but please let it be me. You know what? I did the work. Going back to the first question, I didn't, like, I got out of treatment, and went to a 12-step meeting,
You
and
did
then
what
it
they
was right before
said.
I did exactly what
Right.
they told. And I was so desperate for wanting things different, and they gave me hope
Right.
that things could be different. So I would invite you, if you see, here's the difference. You're despite all the work he is doing, he's doing the work. I hear hope for this one, not hope for the first question. So I would invite you to not look at statistics, are more about what is he willing to do in order to be on a recovery path. The odds are, if I think, and I've said this before, Dr. Rob, for the guys that follow their aftercare plan, I think it's probably close to 100%, unless there's some catastrophic mental health condition or something, that happens. I think if the guys that come to our program and do the work and stay with their aftercare plan, I bet it's close to 100%. And then there's the guys that
Oh,
leave treatment and act out before they get to the airport. Like, that. So the odds are more on, are you willing to bet on a guy who's doing the work, who's trying to show up for you in a different way? It's a process, but that would be, in my opinion, a way better statistic, so to speak.
I wanted to mention two things, Tammy. One, going back, and I will answer your question. Number one is we run an alumni group twice a week. It's free. Any of the guys who've been through our program can come and sit with the other guys and talk with the other guys on a Zoom, and there's a therapist there, and they have the opportunity. It's not a therapy group, to connect. And one of the things that really helps people, if not number one thing, is to stay connected with the people who are the good people, the one who. So, do you see him going to alumni group? We do an aftercare program. I never remember the initials, where anyone who's struggling, Tammy, I'll tell you in a second, anyone who's been through our program who is struggling, they can come for what, 3, 4 weeks online every
Yeah.
morning, and they'll meet for a couple hours and kind of give them a restart. So there are a lot of ways that someone who's struggling can say, let me connect back with the things that I knew were working before. So back to the first question, is he going to alumni group? Is he reaching out to us and saying, I need some support? We can do that. Is he taking a course or a class? What is he reading? Again, I think there are many, many ways to consider whether someone's healing, and if they're not, what they're doing to heal. Okay. Second question about statistics. I studied a little bit, wasn't very good at statistics, but I know that you have to have samples and they have to be stable, and you have to
Mhm.
have, one group of people are in the sample, and one. In other words, statistics are really our science, and they have to do, if they're done right, they're done very carefully with the control and all those kinds of things. It isn't a newspaper that goes to talk to some people who are leaving a meeting and say, well, my friend left and I haven't. I don't think you can get statistics on this population. I really don't. And I'm talking about alcoholics, drug addicts, sex addicts, because we come in and we go out and we get well and we get better, and then we don't, and then we fall on our
And some
face.
of them lie. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing
No.
great. Yes, like picked up the phone, I'm doing great, and they're acting out like, yes. So yes, that's yes, garbage in, garbage out for data.
And I don't know what relapse means, because I mean, I do know technically what it means, but is someone, what is the word you used? Is someone, if someone, what do I want to say? Um, well, let me just say this. I wrote it down. When I teach the guys in treatment and also on my own, I'll say, look, we can do a lot of things for you. And yes, the rubber hits the road when you get home. But the number one thing I can't give you is motivation. And I think it's what Tammy said. I don't care what the statistics are. What I care about is this person being honest? Are they telling you the truth? I also don't know what a relapse is. I said that earlier. To me, if someone goes out to the back of their behavior and then 3 days later they feel terrible about it and they go to their sponsor and they tell you and they start cleaning up their act, that's not relapse. That's the best job they could do at healing. So if you think if relapse means if relapse means they touched on the behavior and came back out and cleaned it up, to me, that's not relapse. To me, that's growth. I hear spouses say, well, if they ever do it again, then I'm going to leave them. What I think is important is, if they do it, do they come to you and tell you this happened? Because that's what a lot of spouses, I think, are missing, is just knowing what the heck is going on. You won't like what happened, but you'll think, huh, Well, at least I know what's going on in my life and I didn't know before. So statistics are not relevant in the area of addiction because people go to meetings, they leave meetings, they get in recovery, they leave recovery. There is no stable way to view that. However, I wrote some stuff down. Um, I'm on medication. Does it work for Tammy? Not really. Does it work for me? Yeah. Are there things that are helpful to some people and not helpful to other people? Sure. There are many, many, many ways to heal. What I would look at again is, and let me just say this, every spouse that I've ever worked with wants a guarantee. Every spouse I've ever worked with reads every book. You guys are the learners. You read every book. Fortunately, I have 9 of them. So by all means, dig in. I make 12 cents a copy. But seriously, you are the educators. You read the books, you listen to the podcasts, you are the knowers. And part of the reason that spouses want that is to feel comforted and a sense of safety because you know everything that's going on. And so you're in that stage, I think, of how do I, where's the book? Where's the situation where I can be reassured? That will tell me this will work or it won't work, or I should have hope or I shouldn't have hope. I think it's each person in each situation. And I can work with 8 guys at treatment and I can tell those 2 are going to make it, those 2 aren't, those are going to fall on their face, but they'll be back in 3 weeks for alumni group. There is no straight line through this. It really is like this. So statistics are less important to me. And I've been in this field my whole life, 30 years. What I'm interested in is the individual. Do they seem committed? If they fall on their face, do they get back up and they clean it up and they tell you and they deal with it and they go to more meetings, they go to more, how are they acting? How is this person acting? How do you see this person changing? Because I can see all kinds of statistics. Sorry, I'm going to go on and on. Those TV things where they talk about a medication and then but then they're like, and they say it really fast, but you can get this and you can get that and you can get this. And the efficacy and the harm of a lot of things aren't useful. I'm on a heart medication. It hasn't helped a lot of people. It saved my life. So I can't guarantee you that what one person does is going to make the other person heal. What I can tell you is it is up to the individual, your sense of safety, your sense of trust. And I'll say one more thing. It doesn't matter. I believe that it doesn't matter what the statistics say. You would still be worried about hope. You would still be worried about trust. You would still feel unsafe. And you would still be looking for that marker that says, there, now that they're doing this, or now that I know that, it's all going to be better. And your life has changed. It's never going to be better. It's never going to be the same. You'll never see this person walk out the door again and think, oh, well, they would never do anything to hurt me, because they will, or might, or have. So I can't give you the reassurance you're looking for. And even if I said 97.3%, it wouldn't mean anything. What I do encourage you to do is, what are you doing for yourself? What groups are you going to? We have on Seeking Integrity, we have over a dozen groups of partners, of all kinds of folks, but there certainly are a lot of partners on there asking the same questions. And I think if you, rather than asking me, I appreciate it, go to one of those rooms where there's 25 women and they're all asking, how do I deal with this? How do I manage this? How do I take better care of myself? What do I need to do? Find out what the path is for you. And a good question, I think, might be, what are the statistics? You want to go there? Of partners who completely dedicate themselves to their own healing and stop pointing the finger at him and saying, I can't believe, or her, can't believe you did this, can't believe you did this to me, can't. That's true. I can't either, but that doesn't help you. It's happened. You're in crisis. What are you going to do to feel better for you? How are you going to regulate yourself? Whatever he does, or she does, how are you going to make sure that you are okay? And so I can't give you the answer you're looking for, because I can't, but and I can't give you the reassurance that you're looking for because I'm not in your life. But my focus would be less on statistics and more how can I come to peace within myself? How's that?
So yeah, it's good. And Dr. Rob, touched on lots of things, but one of the things, the guarantee, and I was thinking, if we said 99% of people, stay in recovery, are you going to believe that your person is, or are you going to go, that's the 1 in 100 that, that isn't? And I have been in recovery, and with lots of gratitude for decades, and I still won't tell my husband I will never act out again. Like, I just go, for today, I know what I'm doing to take care of my program. I'm showing with my actions that I'm committed to this. I don't like I would lose so much. I love my life. It's, I live a good life, and it's not about the stuff. It's about the connections with people. I show up, I have integrity. I don't have to go, who did I say what to? I don't have to
You saw me
remember the
last night.
lies. Oh
Right.
my God. I mean, it's like the freedom that I experience, that I'm a contributing member of society, shouldn't be, like the gratitude I have for living a life in recovery. I want to share one more thing quick. Is Debbie Allen did a webinar, same link as I posted in the chat, in the previously recorded webinars, from June of 2023. And it was 3 circle plans for partners. And one of the things she talked about is, and everybody's 3 circle plan is a little different. There's some common things, but for partners, she suggested that perhaps having the inner circle be, I'm hyper focused on what he's doing. And like Dr. Rob said, with the boundaries, it's about, what do I need to do to take care of me, regardless of what this person is doing. I did put the Empowered Women's Retreat link in there, because you know what, again, we talk about healing for the women that are there. We're not talking about his behaviors. Yes, it has effects and things like that, but the more you are centered in yourself and connected with other people in a healing way, the less what he's doing is the be all end all for your life. You don't have
Right.
to be ping ponged around by whatever he's doing or not doing. Oh, I'm going to have a good day today because he's sort of showing up today. Oh gosh, I'm worried about him, so now I'm not going to have a good day. Oh my gosh, your joy, all of your focus, all of your life is sucked away by his addiction and his behaviors. And so we invite you to healthy boundaries for you, or for your needs, for your healing, not about control or punishment against what he's doing or done, but it's like, I need to take care of me. I'm the only one that can take care of me. So I invite you to look at that too.
I love what you said, Tammy, about, we could say 99.9% of people recover completely, and you would say, well, is he in the 1.1%? Or you might say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. There's this book and that book, because the numbers don't answer your question. Trust is not built with numbers. And by the way, to Tammy's point, I believe in redemption. I believe in healing. I wouldn't be sitting here. Trust me. You don't want to see the numbers of people I had sexually. I showed up in the program at 26 years old, and I said, my life is falling apart and I'm incredibly lonely and I can't live like this anymore. I have a great life. Tammy's my friend. Life is good. And it's because I was dedicated to healing. And by the way, from the addict perspective, I wasn't dedicating for my partner. I wasn't dedicated for my family. I wasn't dedicated for the people I love. I was dedicated because I wanted a different life. And I'll tell you what, every guy who is straight comes in because he's wife referred, and every man who is gay comes in because he's man referred, partner referred, because the men I work with aren't trustworthy. And they come in because they want to please that spouse. If I do this, they'll forgive me. If I do this, they'll stay with me. If I do this, we won't get divorced, or whatever it is. My hope is they move to, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to stay with my partner, but whatever happens, I have to live and feel good about myself. And that's where I would like to see the recovery come from. By the way, Tammy, did I show you my shirt today?
Oh, the higher path. Well, that's good.
Good,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So one more thing before we get to the next question. I did put, it was Debbie Allen, June of 2023, the Circle Plan for Partners. That's in our YouTube video. So check that out. That's in the chat. But one more group that I'm working on, work group. So those are the 6-week courses Dr. Rob mentioned, Out of the Doghouse for Men Who've Been Caught Cheating. But we've got Sex Addiction 101, parts 1, 2, and 3, porn addiction, Out of the Doghouse, healthy intimacy, attachment wounds. We've got lots of things. We've got a betrayed partner work group. So these are 6 weeks in length, 90 minutes per week, live facilitated. You're not just watching videos, and there's homework to do. There's some accountability. It's not enough on its own, but it's a good start. And we're working on having one for boundaries, because partners and addicts,
No one, right.
they should be learning those in, but this is specifically for partners, because partners struggle so much with internal and external boundaries, and making sure that they're they always go, he goes right through my boundaries, and we're like, but then what is the consequence? And so there's a misperception about that. And so Debbie McCrae, who's fantastic and different than the other Debbie that I mentioned on the last one, we got two Debbies that do fantastic work there. But we'll be facilitating that probably the beginning of next year. We're working on pulling that all together. So probably will be a January offering, but that will be very specific to identify boundaries, practice what they are, and be able to hold the space for each other with those. So excited about that one.
Yeah, and you know what I have to say? There are 48 people in this room, and their lives are not going well, and they're not writing questions.
I know.
And I want to say to you guys, and I will say with all pride, there is no place on this internet where you can find 12 free groups, 8
More than that,
educational groups, all these podcasts, I mean, we have 1 million+ downloads, plus the treatment center. And I'm not trying to ring our bell. I'm just saying I really love being a resource, and especially, and Tammy's heard me say this, and I'll stop. The reason I do things like this and Tammy does things like this is because so many people won't make therapy. So many people won't get into these workshops and groups, but we can sit here, the podcast can be there, the educational free stuff. We are, as if 10% of you go to our treatment center or join a group or do whatever, that pays for all the rest of the folks to get it for free. And that is my goal really as a social worker, is to make sure that people get what they need regardless of whether they can afford it or not. So good on us. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Well, but and a work group, they're low cost. Like the Sex Addiction 101 or Out of the Doghouse, 6 weeks, live facilitated, 90 minutes per week via Zoom. So you don't even have to travel. And those are like $395, like what, 60, 65 bucks a week, for
well, now you're going to get me
great
going,
content.
Tammy. The reason we do these is because you don't get education therapy. When you have an hour with someone, you talk about what's going on. In treatment, when we run centers, we do education every day. And I think one of the things therapists don't have the opportunity to do is sit down with you for 2 hours every week and say, here's your homework, here's your, let me give you a lesson. And that's what we try to do, is fill in the blanks of what therapy doesn't offer. And or people who can just get a taste of it who can't afford that. So anyway, let's stop what we're doing in that way and try to help some people here.
Yes. And I'm putting the link for all the online. So
I love the
great
next question.
Love
it.
Are there female addicts and male betrayed partners? I never hear her as betrayer and addict as him as the betrayed abused partner. Is this common pronouns, or are women not addicts betrayers? So
I actually, and I'll shine my shoes here. I opened the first treatment center for women. And I don't know if I think there might be one now, because of course women struggle with this. Of course they're broken like the men are. What I find is women tend to have multiple areas of challenge. For one thing, they might struggle with food or exercise or other things. And there's so much shame for a woman. I mean, when you are a guy, I don't care what you had sex with 1,000 people, you're still kind of a dude, But if you're a woman and you're having sex with 1,000 people, what do they call you? And so the amount of shame that women experience and the amount of self-hatred. I mean, you already know what the world thinks of you. Women don't generally come in for these issues. It's a treatment. They come in for food issues, and then it gets recognized. They by the way, there are books, Tammy, on our website. I think we list books for women. We have the grace of having gotten to know a number of clinicians, therapists we know who work with women. We have on my podcast, I think I've done.
I was going to mention that too. Yeah.
Right. But the reality is that it's so shameful. It's so difficult. And women often come in for other kinds of things. I will say also that I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. I don't think the women I've worked with can be any different from the men. You may think, oh, well, it means lots of affairs, or I've seen women go through bodies just as quickly as the men do. It just depends on how challenged they are and what they've been through. So yes, and if you want to drop TAMI at Seeking Integrity, drop Tammy a note, and Tammy at seekingintegrity.com, and she will recommend some books. She'll point you toward the space on our site. She'll connect you with a therapist who does this work. There are groups for online for women. There's a 12-step program for women who struggle. There are sex and love addicts meetings that are women only. So I just think you need to find your people, and you need to find your information, because you're gonna you're going to hear about men more because there are more of us. We have testosterone. You ladies don't. Why are there more men in prison for violent crime? Because we have testosterone. Why do men commit more sexual crimes? Because we have testosterone. We're more aggressive and more driven in some ways because of that. So, you see a lot more men acting out in this way. We see a lot more women acting out with food. So there's a balance between how certain genders will, certain sexes will struggle with some things and others will struggle with others in general. But trust me, there are men who struggle with food and there are women who struggle with sex. So drop Tammy a note. By the way, I'm so glad you're here because we do not get this question enough. The reality is the ones who usually get in a lot of trouble are the men. And they are faced with losing everything in their lives, their spouses, their home, their families, all of that. And they come to treatment because they're in trouble. So find your people. There's plenty of them out there. We don't speak as much about it because probably 90% of the people we get here are heterosexual men and women dealing with it. But trust me, gay men, gay partners, women, everybody shows up. Our primary source of the primary thing we offer in terms of residential treatment is men. But there's a lot of resources for you. So the answer is yes. There's lots of you out there. Find your people.
And I posted in the chat, we have a drop-in group for female sex and love addicts on Tuesday nights. And it's just for women. We've got a male betrayed partner group on Tuesday nights, just for men. There's a mixed gender on Sunday. And one of the things on these webinars is if we try to use all the different pronouns, it's so confusing. I can't keep straight what I'm saying versus, having anybody understand it. So we do tend to use he for
Right.
Addict and her for betrayed partner, but it doesn't matter. We have female couples who have where there's betrayal. We have, it doesn't matter. This is an equalizing thing.
Right.
Everybody can be a betrayer, and
It's an
everybody
equal
can be
opportunity
betrayed.
disease, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So go
I
ahead.
did want to thank you, Tammy, because it's a great example of we don't see women in treatment. I don't think we have any courses for women sex addicts, but
We
we have
tried.
free. Yeah, women, it's
They
difficult
didn't
to,
sign up.
yeah,
So yeah.
but that's okay. But we have free groups for women who are sex addicts, and we have free groups for men who've been betrayed. Go to one, go to 6. Maybe you're not a 12-step person. At least you can start to get support and feedback. Folks, we don't do this. We don't make any money from these groups. We don't, what it is a place for you to go at home, online. You can cover your, where is that thing? Cover your camera and not even say, share your name. You can go there anonymously and just
Well,
learn.
the only thing is if you're in a female sex and love addict group, we need to make sure that you're a female, so they will ask
Yes,
you to turn your camera on and verify, and
right.
those are, we have to have those at these
Good.
private spaces. They are not recorded. This is recorded, and we were clear about that before we started, and that's why you're typing these in as anonymous attendee. We are keeping privacy there. In those, they're not recorded. There's someone hosting each of those drop-in groups to keep it a safe space for everyone. For partners, we work from a codependent lens. I sub in sometimes, and if anybody starts using codependent language, it's full stop, and we talk about why that isn't helpful, and we really want to make sure that we're using codependent language, to support partners. This is all about healing, and I will say this one thing, and for those people who wish to remain stuck, like where they just want to be angry, this may not be a fit. If you there's anger at the beginning, but we have people, I talk to people that are years down the path and it's still just vehement anger, and I'm like, we want to help people. We're a lifeline. I get emails all the time and calls of like, thank you so much for the resources. They saved my life. Like Dr. Rob's voice and my voice and whatever. Like, you guys have been the through line to me healing, and people move forward. That's the goal. That's why we're here. And Dr. Rob's right. We don't get paid for doing this. This
Right.
is, we're showing up. We could be eating dinner with our families, and but this is so meaningful and important. I don't want you to miss out on on the healing. So okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, I want to say one more thing to them. You should be sitting in our chair. Yeah, Tammy, you might want to drop something up codependence in the chat. I hope that you get to a point in your own healing where you're sitting in a chair like mine, helping other people with the process. That is the real goal, at least for the people in recovery, is to turn around and pass it on. So I'm not only interested in the healing of the people here, I'm interested in your getting to a point where you can help other people, which is what we're trying to do. Okay, let's keep going, Tammy. So many questions, so pouring in now.
Okay, and one more thing, SLAA does have more for women, but I'm on the board of directors for Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, SCA, and there are plenty of women in that group too. So I think just find your space. Again, I'll refer you back to the webinar on that. So, okay, betrayed partner, 3 years since discovery, and I'm really struggling with opening back up to a person who I know has the capability of hurting me so deeply. We are both doing really good healing and recovery work, fantastic. And it feels like if I open up to him again, I am abandoning myself. I don't know how to get through this holding myself back block. Is the normal, or is it normal in the healing journey? What are ways to get through the block? This is a great question. Thank you for being here and asking that. So,
Well, I'm just going to give you the what comes off the top of my head, which is, of course, you don't feel safe. Of course, you want to be close and intimate and know that someone's not going to hurt you. Of course, you want to open up to someone. And in fact, I have stories about spouses who opened up and they had a great weekend, and they had a great time, and then they think, oh my God, I made myself vulnerable, and they take 10 steps back because that is the journey. What concerns me here, though, is the 3 years part. I think at this point, there needs to, I mean, if you can, couples therapy, it maybe working on yourself to find out, because these kinds of issues can often trigger things within us that scare us or that worry us, or things in the past or whatever. They can trigger these things. And then I'm kind of conflating some bad things to happen emotionally, bad things are happening in the past with bad things are happening in the present. So there are many, many people here, more than I can count in all these groups we do, who have been through this, and they have learned to trust and have learned to open themselves up again, but maybe with much more clarity about how to protect themselves, how to take care of themselves, what honesty, integrity means. Their relationships are different. So I don't know where you and your partner are, but what I hear is hard work, working really good. You're both doing hard. This is a more personal issue that I would see a professional about. And the reason I say that is at 6 months, of course, at a year, absolutely. But by this time, if you're both working, and you're not moving into some kind of sense of grace and connection, physically, emotionally, whatever that is, it really is something that you might want to look at either together or on your own. So what are the ways to get through this block? I think you need support with that. That would be my recommendation. And you're not doing anything wrong, but you asked the perfect question, which is, I want to be there and I don't know how to get there. You need help. And that's what we're here to do, to support, to direct, and to help. Okay, Tamala.
I've been called that before. Is being delusional part of addiction? My husband sometimes has delusional thinking and will believe things that are not true. Yes.
Do you want to start?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, denial is I'm lying to myself, like, so yeah, delusional and lying in the face of concrete, like there's an observation by your partner that is saying this, and you're going, oh no, completely delusional thinking. So yes, that, and that's challenging. Even if the problematic behaviors stop, this can be, the ongoing threat of like lying to myself and everyone else, and how do we combat that? We do the work. We've talked about the 12 steps. We've talked about working with qualified professionals. We've talked about, out of the doghouse, work group. So just stopping the problematic behavior, the acting out is just stopping that. That's merely abstinence. So to me, this feels like this person needs a higher level of help. So I would be curious what all is being done. And I think it's really important for you to also healthy boundaries. Here we go again. Debbie McRae, another reference to her, has talked about the 4-part talking boundary with, I know that that's your reality, but, this doesn't make me feel safe. And, so there are lots of tools to help you, with this. You don't have to accept that he just gets to have delusional thinking.
I wanted to say something about this too. I don't know what you mean by delusional. So some people, delusional means, I think I'm the devil, or I'm seeing
Mm.
visions, or there's mental illness that involves delusions, or I have this belief that my spouse is cheating on me, no matter what they do, or no matter I can't, it's delusional. It's a fixed belief
So
that I
like from a
can't get
mental
rid of.
health standpoint
Yeah, from a
rather than
mental
a
health
denials. Okay.
perspective. So I
Thank
don't
you
know
for
what
clarifying
you
that.
mean
So,
by that, but I'm talking about mental, when I think of delusion, I think of number one of a mental health issue. But every addict is delusional. Every addict from a non-mental health perspective says, well, I can do this and not get away with it. Or what I do won't hurt him or her. Or I can spend this money and just hide it. Or I can have sex with this person and I'll never pass an STD on. I mean, addicts are, I wouldn't use the word delusional. I would say that they have tremendous denial and they're able to sell themselves a story that just isn't true. And by the way, that's my job in treatment, in the treatment centers, to say, you've been doing this, but you say you want that. Which one? You want to have a happy family life, you want things to go forward, but you're having sex with sex workers and you're out looking at porn all day long. These things don't really add up. That's that's the form of delusion or denial that I think about with addicts, which is I say I'm going to do this, but I'm doing that. That's addiction, and it is delusional. But then there's mental health, and I think you can go on AI, and you can go to Chat GPT and look up, what is delusional in the addiction world and what is a delusion in the mental health world, and you'll get a good sense of from an encyclopedia version of what that looks like. Let's keep going now. Why do we have
okay.
lots of questions at the end? I hate
And
that.
we're going to run out of time. So sorry
I
about that, but
know.
we warned you. Okay. How do I reconnect in the bedroom with my husband after infidelity when he doesn't seem ready? So this is, um, I assume the husband is the addict and is the betrayer, and he's concerned. I mean, you hear this all the time with clients, like living in the real world and struggling
Sure,
with, now I need to connect in a really meaningful and vulnerable way, and
sure.
oh my gosh, I'm terrified.
Um, I could tell you the many, many reasons why, but for sex addicts, having sex with a stranger or hiring someone or having an affair or looking at porn, that's easy. I can do that all day long. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. They can't hurt me. They can't let me down. They can't disappoint me. I'm paying them, or it's an affair, or it's porn. None of that's gonna let me down or hurt me or disappoint me. Um, but a relationship where I left someone, you can let me down. You can hurt me, and I don't want to ever feel that way again, like I did maybe when I was younger. So the bottom line is, we are intimacy avoidant. And I don't mean intimacy sex. I mean um, being open, being having meaningful conversations, talking about what's going on with us, um, holding, cuddling. Sex is not intimacy. Is not sex. Intimacy is just like we talked about when we were kids. You got to hold their hand before you can. There you got to go through the bases. Oh God, no one knows what we're talking about. But in any case, there are also books that we know of colleagues that have written. And again, I don't know if it's on our website or you want to write Tammy to find out of some of them, but we do have a lot of books that relate to specifically the Burkos, for example. How do I re-engage sexuality? But I think your question is really, really well phrased, because it's most often a spouse who will say, how can I feel comfortable being sexual again with this person who betrayed me? I think if you're dealing with an addict, it's our fear of intimacy. It's our fear of getting close. It's our issues that underlie. I think sex addiction is the top of the iceberg. It's the part you see, but underneath is a tremendous fear of intimacy. I do 2-hour consultations with people on the phone. And one of the things that I do, the first thing I do is say to the spouse, have you felt there's been a lack of intimacy in your relationship? And they'll say, well, yeah, we never talk about anything. And I'm always asking them what they're feeling or what's going on. And they always say, I don't have time or I'm busy. Intimacy and the loss of intimacy is one of the most painful things, I think, for a spouse. So what I hear is this person is doing maybe in a healthier way what they did before, which is backing away and keeping separate from you. And again, therapy issue, couples therapy issue, educate issue. It's a great question. And I hope you're talking about it, the two of you, what it means. So I can't believe that we do all this work. Sorry, don't mean to say it. And you guys don't talk about sex. Talk about sex. Talk about being close. Talk about what makes you feel safe. You don't need a therapist to do that. And ask him, what are you so afraid of? What's going on with you? Oh, one more thing. Sex doesn't have to be we're penetrating. Sex can be, I'm touching you, I'm giving you a massage, we're holding each other. You know, there are steps you can take to intimacy that may lead to sex, or they may lead to a sexual act, but they start with holding, touching, massaging, stroking, kissing. There are a lot of steps in between here and there. And sometimes we think, oh, sex. And that's not necessarily what that's, especially for the addicts, something that we may need to take very slowly. Okay, Tammy, let's keep going if you don't mind.
No. What can I do when my husband's not sharing his recovery plan or experience and his CSAT won't speak to me? He went to a 2-week intensive back in June and came home without a plan. I want to clarify that wasn't seeking integrity because they have a plan. So that is not us. So
And and I want to say that too. Intensives are great. They're not the level of treatment that we're talking about. And in fact, I find sometimes people go to intensives and they're staying at a hotel, you know, so there they
and guess
are.
what they're
Or
doing in the hotel?
I'm not a huge fan. I think it's great to give someone a week-long introduction or let them take a course, but there's some idea that if they take an intensive, you know, they're going to really get a long way. And I don't think those environments really offer what is needed. But in any case, no, your partner's therapist is going to talk to you because your partner hasn't allowed them to. I have to sign a release. If I'm seeing Tammy for therapy and you want to talk to Tammy, I actually have to sign something that says it's okay for her to talk to you. So, and also there are therapists who say, I don't want to get involved in the relationship. I want to be completely clean. I don't want to have any of your influence. I'm not a fan of that. In my training, we have something called collateral people, which is somebody who comes in once or twice and says, this is what's going on with me. This is my experience. At worst, you can leave a message for your husband's therapist and say, these are my concerns. These are the things that are going on. They really worry me. And yeah, anybody who comes from a program without a plan, they're not doing what they need to do there. So I don't know, Tammy. I mean, I feel heartache when I read them. I feel
I
sad
do
when I
too.
see
And
this.
like we have a family specialist, and even after the client leaves, and she gets calls, because of sticky situations and things like that. So we have ongoing support for each and both of you. So I'm going to invite you come to the Empowered Women's Retreat. But this is really about what are your healthy boundaries. If he's not sharing and all this, to me that is like, okay, you can't make anybody do anything, but you sure can take care of you. You're not willing to share your recovery plan. You are not building trust with me. So therefore, I'm taking care of me.
Right.
Over here working with on my tribe, working with my support people, taking care of me so that I'm not dysregulated all the time, trying to watch what you're doing or not doing. So it's so difficult for partners. So I would invite you to lean into the resources we do offer, that would be really helpful. And we do have I can't tell you how many guys have been to those kind of programs and then come to us. I often say, if we're not your first treatment program, we want to be your last. We want you to have the tools and support to be successful with recovery, when you leave. So,
And I want to jump on
different.
what Tammy said. If my spouse is not sharing the recovery, if there doesn't seem to be a plan, if I can't go to their therapist, how does that make me feel? And if I feel that way, I think I know how it makes you feel. What am I doing to make myself feel better? How am I taking care of me? Because they're going to do whatever they're going to do, but you need to feel better. And one of the things we talk about in forgiveness is the stage where I can find peace. I've been betrayed. That has violated me, but that will not define my life. And I guess that's the most important thing I'm saying to you, spouses. Bad things have happened. It doesn't have to define who you are and how you live your life. Okay.
The next question is, um, betrayed here 3 months from discovery. How do you tell the difference between regurgitating and people pleasing versus true recovery? My partner is in a 12-step, but only
um,
3 months from discovery. So to me, this is, that's very early.
yeah, I wouldn't know. But here's the thing. What is there something in the recovery program that doubt until proven? I don't remember. I would not trust somebody who's 3 months out to discovery regardless. So the question is kind of moot because it's whether you're regurgitating or people pleasing, or I don't feel 3 months. I'm not ready to have trust. And I don't see someone who feels trust I feel someone who's not entirely comfortable with the relationship, what they're hearing, and maybe it has nothing to do with them. Maybe it has to do with it that you are not safe and you don't feel trusting. And maybe it doesn't matter what they say or do, you're not going to feel comfortable. This is a very short period of time. Um, I did want to answer a question, Tammy. There's at 5:40, someone named Stephanie wrote us,
Oh, I
and I
was just
just
typing
want,
an answer.
yeah, it's a question about faith-based work and
Okay,
faith-based
I will.
intensive.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
And we
and
know,
I'm going to apologize in advance because we usually take these in order. So I was typing an answer, but I will read it for you. Do you have a faith-based intensive that is for heterosexual
thank you.
men only? My husband would not be comfortable with one that wasn't for heterosexuals. So
Well, there's two things in there. Wouldn't be how's it comfortable without a faith-based program, wouldn't be because there are faith anyway. I don't want to go into it. Let me just say this. We have very good friends who do this work from a Christian perspective. I wrote this book out of the doghouse twice because I knew that there were men who really wanted to heal their relationships, but if they didn't see it in scripture, they weren't going to be able to respond to it. In fact, the friend that I'm thinking of who runs a Christian heterosexual men's intensive, it's in Tennessee, right? She
it's not
co
an intensive; it's a workshop. So yeah.
Okay. Well, and there may be other resources that you have, Tammy, but the community is certainly strong. The only thing I would worry about, I guess, a little bit is that this is not an issue of not having enough faith. If I pray more, if I go to church more, if I read, this is a program of action. And what is that person doing toward their own healing? And Christian, Jewish, what I don't, agnostic, I don't care what the program is. Um, Sitting there and learning and following their faith is not the thing that's going to help them heal. Action is when it's going to help them heal. Tammy, do you want to answer any more or
Um. Uh.
yes, we want to answer
I
10 of
no.
them.
I just want to. Well, I do. So to this particular one, any program that says that it is only men who have never acted out with any other men, even if they're heterosexual. Like, this is sex addiction. It like this is not about relationships, and like, oh, I'm going to go have dinner with this person. And I mean, there are affairs, don't get me wrong, but like I think it's a mistake to go, I need only this kind of situation. We work with clients of all faiths and no faiths, and we've got Jason Swelling is as a master of divinity, he helps clients. There are some that have really struggled with the, like Dr. Rob was talking about, my values are over here and I have a belief system, and here's how my acting out has gone. So for those that want expert help, there is no more expert clinical team, and I'm not part of it, on the planet for dealing with these issues. Men only, gender separate. We do not work with women. Dr. Rob is really clear about that. So so you can go off looking for just the right program, and then it'll be like the other program that was like, well, they went there and they didn't even get an aftercare plan. This is a mental health condition, and getting the expert help changes, gives everyone an opportunity to heal. So
I
okay.
did want to say one more thing about that question, which is let me go back and find it. Um,
I just put it in answered, sorry.
oh, okay,
Bear
that's
with me.
okay. Let me find it. The last one. Oh, I also, here's what the people I work with have in common, the addiction. It doesn't matter whether they drive a garbage truck or they are ruling the universe. And we've been with some of those folks. It doesn't matter whether they sleep with, have sex with men or women or something in between. And I understand this may be what leaves your husband feeling safest. And I respect that. But I'll also say, people have said to me, well, why don't you have a gay program and a straight program? Because we're men. And men are men, and men think like men, and it doesn't matter, whether with this person or that person. We are still one of our most primary identifying issue is being men and men with this problem. And what I find is that there are a lot of heterosexual men who say, "Oh, I made all these assumptions about gay guys I didn't realize." And the gay guys say the same thing. So, in any case, I respect and understand that. I just think that what I would want is the best situation, not the one that leaves me feeling the most comfortable, but the one that serves me in the best way. Tammy, I hate this. I could do this all night.
I
I
know,
love doing
but
this.
we invited, like, yeah, so join. Aaron will be on next week, and Dr. Rob will be back in 2 weeks. Join us, type your questions in early, because then we actually, get to those, because, we would have if we had a whole bunch of questions flowing in, we would have shortened our
And I'll say
responses.
one more thing. I have a
Sure.
podcast called Sex,
Mhm.
Love, and Addiction. If you just can't, if you can't, you're so lonely for my voice, you actually need to hear more. We have over 1.5 million downloads. Go to Sex, Love, and Addiction and listen.
Well, the webinars, like I put links in the chat about both of those, and they're on seekingintegrity.com. There's there's hundreds of webinars. Like, we've been doing this for, I don't even know, like
Ever.
6 years, Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's hundreds of webinars of live Q&A with people asking questions, so yeah, we've got resources. And tagging back real quick to what you said earlier about the resources, there's so much junk out there on the internet, and I can't tell you how often I get people that come in and they've been told something, and it's so counter what our experience and your experience and the clinical team's experience would advise. And yes, there are many paths to things, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work well, and we hear it over and over and over again. And people are out there, so we work really hard at having resources that are useful for people, that will help them heal. That's what it's all about. We want you to move from where you are, and in the dysregulation and chaos and hurt, into a place of healing and connection.
And
That's
hope.
what it's about. Yeah, and hope. Absolutely. So,
Bye,
okay, bye
Tammy.
everybody. Thank you, Dr.
See you
Rob.
guys. Bye for now.